Alright, in this video, we are going to talk about the free response question for the assignment. So we mentioned about when there is a picture, the answer is in the picture. So smile, a table value, it's also a picture. So this table value represents the given function y equal to e to the power x minus 3 plus 2. So we mentioned about when there is a picture, the answer is in the picture. So part A, what is the equation of the horizontal asymptote? So aka horizontal asymptote, we're going to look for y equal to what? One thing about the cool thing it is we always use the limit. The limit will be the trending, kind of like, hey, what do you notice about my function behavior when I look at the picture? What will be the trending? Eventually the picture getting bigger and bigger to the left, to the right, okay? Because we are given the table, so we get to activate our ego eye. So now do not overthink. Giving you the x value, we are going to look for the outcome, the y value. So let's see. The y value, you can say that, if I starting from the 0, okay, the x equal to 0, as x getting bigger and bigger, my number is getting bigger and bigger as well. But you also see a trending to the left side. As x gets more and more smaller, negative, my y value, it's become more and more to a particular number. As you can see here, it is 2. So therefore, you can say that, okay, y equal to 2, it's my horizontal asymptote. And that will be the information we got from the table. As the x gets more and more negative, infinity, my function gets more and more to a number 2. Now you may say that, Ms. Ong, it kind of looks like this guy here, the y-intercept. Now watch out, because we're talking about the asymptote. So the asymptote will be the invisible line. It will be always there, invisible. The function, it's getting closer and closer to it, but cannot equal to that. But if you use the limit, it kind of makes sense, okay? Part B, does the graph lie above or below the horizontal asymptote? Now, kind of like, you know that it's a picture of a exponential function, okay? And we mentioned about y equal to 2 is my horizontal asymptote. So do you think my graph, the actual picture, will be above the asymptote, the horizontal asymptote, or below? Well, what do we talk about? All about the base. What is my base? My base is E. The E is equal to 2.718 something, right? So this base is bigger than 1. So we know that it's a growth, which means my picture is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, going up. That makes sense? When you take a look at your x, as x getting bigger and bigger, my number y is getting bigger and bigger. So therefore, that will be the only option for my graph behave. That will be above the horizontal asymptote. So this is a cool thing about the using the number and to use the table value to summarize what do we know about that. C, the keyword is the inverse function. So kind of like a review from last year. How do we find the inverse function? 5 steps. So the given original function, as you can see here, it is given to us. It is what? Y. Okay, so the given, it is the function f of x is equal to e to the x minus 3 then plus 2. So follow the steps. Step 1, we get to write out y. So I'm going to make this guy become y. So y is equal to e to the x minus 3 power then plus 2. What is my step 2? Switch x and y. So what you see is what you got. When you see y, you're going to write it as x, and when you see x, I'm going to make it equal to y. Okay, now the next move, it's called, I got to isolate all the y terms on one side. Before we can go, you kind of say that, Ms. Ong, everything about y had to stay on one side. So which means I'm going to make this by itself. How do I do that? You can say that, both sides I am going to minus 2. So therefore, I will get x minus 2 is equal to e to the y minus 3 power. Now, here comes what we mentioned about the exponential function and log function. They are the inverse function, right? They help each other. So, this tells me if I both sides take the natural log, ln, if both sides I take the natural log, I can bring down the power. So what do you see my power? My power is y minus 3. I can bring the power up from. So that tells me I will have a natural log of x minus 2. That is equal to y minus 3 times the natural log of e. Cool. So this will be applied the knowledge of the log function and exponential function. They are the inverse function of each other. We just use each other to help out each other out. Now, here a little bit review all about the base. Because the natural log base is e and the exponential function base is also e. So the base the same, they cancel out. That become 1. So what do we get here? I just have a natural log of x minus 2 that is equal to y minus 3. Now, since we want to move on to step 4, step 4 tells us I need to show you y equal to what. So what do? I am going to both sides plus 3. So that will give us the 3 on the right side. It's canceled out. So what do we got? Now activate your eagle eye. What you see is what you got. You will just have natural log of x minus 2 then plus 3, that is equal to y. Okay, last step, we're going to replace the y with the inverse symbol notation. So aka what you see is what you got. So you know that the y, I'm going to write it as the inverse function f to the negative 1 of this function is equal to natural log of x minus 2 then plus 3. Ooh, I don't know if you can see that nicely. So that will be my inverse function, and they say that the inverse function is g, so I can just follow the order. So that will be my final answer, g of x, that is equal to natural log of x minus 2 then plus 3. And this is the perfect answer. Cool. All right, moving on. D, what is the vertical asymptote? So do not overthink. Vertical asymptote just tells us we want to figure out x equal to what, okay? Remember we mentioned all about the x value. The asymptote will be some forbidden number. So when you take a look at your eagle eye, you know that when we get the inverse function, we just figured out the inverse function, okay? G is my inverse function, okay? You do know that involving the log function. So what do we know about the log function? When you recall the parents function, the log function, right? So you will see that the log function will never be a negative number. So therefore, you kind of see the invisible line. The x value is in my log, so which is right here. The x minus 2 cannot equal to 0. What does that mean? That means when I plug in my calculator, natural log of 0, I don't have any number. So therefore, the location of whatever the number inside here, I cannot equal to 0. That gives us the final answer. X cannot equal to 2, aka x equal to 2. It's my vertical asymptote. Good? All right, now the very last one, it is called, would you mind to sketch the nice picture of those two functions? Yes, we mentioned about the horizontal asymptote, it's y equal to 2. And we just figured out the vertical asymptote, which is x equal to 2. By definition, because exponential function and log function, they are the inverse function of each other. And we were told that the inverse function, right? So they will reflect over this magic line, which is called the y equal to x. That is my reflection line. So bound by those three beautiful asymptotes, okay? So you can say that, ooh la la. So I can sketch my function. We mentioned about the first one is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but bound by the horizontal, y equal to 2. And then the vertical asymptote, it is the inverse function. I will not bypass the x equal to 2. So this is what we mentioned about when there is a picture, the answer is in the picture. Now, cool thing about the inverse function, we also mentioned about in last year in class, inverse function, x and y switch. So therefore, my domain and my range also switch too. So that's the cool thing about inverse function. Love it, love it, love it. All right. And that's all.